back to me for a second, and I'm going to tell you a couple of things, sort of general things about Worrell House. Maybe you've seen the video. If you haven't, you need to go check out our video. I was just so thrilled, really, during my semester at Worrell House. It's been a while now, but I've remained really close to those students, and I was excited to be able to have a couple of them talk about their experience in retrospect, which I think is really kind of useful because Sydney's going to give you a recent experience, and then I had students who went 10 years or so ago and are continuing to reap the benefits of what they learned in London and the experience they had actually living there. I want to do an overview of a couple of the courses that you'll be taking if you elect to go to Worrell House. Here you see on the screen a couple of shots. That's the back of the house with the garden, which doesn't really even do it justice. It's a beautiful space that you have in a lovely neighborhood where you can spend some time outdoors. And then the kitchen has been recently remodeled and is a lot more functional and really, well, it was functional before, but because of building codes, we had to actually have two separate kitchens, and it wasn't as pretty as it is now. So students living in Worrell House, in addition to the courses that they have with the resident professor, if I can get Marcia to switch the slide for us, you have several options. It's actually a little more fluid than it even looks here because students can take 3 of the courses either for the full 3 credits or for 1 credit. This is because if you're taking art or if you're taking history or if you're taking the theater course, you have a lot of wonderful excursions. In theater, you go to plays in West End, best theater in the world. The history course, there are walking tours and great sights that you see. And then in the art course, major galleries, paintings that you've seen pictures of or heard about before that you can actually see in person with faculty, and it's an extraordinary opportunity. So because students have different majors and we want to make the curriculum a little more flexible for students, but also give students every opportunity to take advantage of the galleries and the shows and the other historical locations, we've changed the curriculum a little bit to give you more options. And this is something that if you decide that you're interested in applying for the Worrell House program, you can learn a little bit more about how that works and make choices that work well for you. I'm going to turn it over to Sydney so that you can talk to a real student who's been there recently and get that kind of perspective. But I will hang around. I'll mute myself and hang around in case anybody has a question later that I might address, or you could also certainly email me or whatever you need to do. I'm always happy to talk about Worrell House. Sydney?
So I guess just a brief overview of the house and the program. Worrell House is located in Hampstead, which is just below Hampstead Heath. It's one of the largest public parks in London, and it's just above Camden Town, which is probably one of the youngest, weirdest, coolest little cities you'll ever pop into in your life. And it's within walking distance of just about anything you could need. There are 2 grocery stores within a 10-minute walk of the house. There are 1,000,005 cafes. There's so many restaurants. There's nothing that you will need that you can't find in London, and probably within like a 30-minute walk of the Worrell House. Jackie and Fiona were still working in the program when I was there. So you have a house manager and a housekeeper, and they kind of make sure that you're okay and that the house is okay. So they're there to act as like a resource for you. And they're super great, super friendly, super kind. They get super excited when students are around, the calendar is full, and the house is full of life. You cook for yourself when you're in Worrell House, which is also a great, fun experience. So many students at Wake do not feed themselves until they go abroad. So it's always fun to figure out how to take care of yourself with your classmates and your cohort. Normally, when I was there, we had an empty bed, but most of the rooms were triples. and your resident professor will live on the basement floor apartment. And in terms of the classes, all of them are, these Politics 234 is actually new for me. I didn't have that option, but that seems like a really awesome class. And all of the professors, from the history professor, the art professor, and the English professor, they all live and work permanently in the United Kingdom. So their experiences are so broad. For example, the woman who taught art when I was there, Rachel, she writes books on different artists. She gives art tours. She does residency work all throughout the city. So she's done 1,005 things, and on top of that, she decides to work for Wake Forest. So her experiences and her time in London are so valuable, and she's full of light. Like, she just wants to talk to students, get to know you guys, and introduce you to art. And all of the professors are so passionate about what they do. So it makes the experience 100% unforgettable. I really enjoyed my time in Worrell House, and I'm also a Global Abroad Ambassador. So if you guys ever have more questions, you get my contact information from the website, the GPS website, or you can send a message to me in the chat privately or whenever you need anything. So, yeah.
Thanks, Sydney.
Hi, so I am Rais Rahman, as I said, and I'm a historian of modern India. And I teach at Wake Forest various courses, including a course on Asia and the world, which is a world history course from the vantage point of Asian history. So that's roughly my background. So that course counts as a divisional course. And that's one of the courses that I will be teaching at the Worrell House. It's a world history course from the perspective of developments, historical and cultural, in Asia. So what I do in this course is basically talk about the global history over the last 500 years or so. And for that course, London is one of the best places to experience and learn, because places like museums and various sites that, because of London being the center for the British Empire and different colonies of British imperialism in Asia. So that allows us to really understand history of the world by being based in London, by visiting all these wonderful places. So that's one important element of that that I'm really looking forward to. The course fulfills a divisional requirement. It fulfills the requirements for history majors and minors, for the global trade and commerce minor, as well as for the Middle East and South Asia studies minor. So it fulfills a bunch of different requirements. The other course that I will be teaching is something that I'm teaching right now as well. It's a history through film, Bollywood and the making of modern India. It brings film and history together. And what we are doing right now is, one class, we meet twice a week. One class, we do the readings, primary sources, texts, and another class, we watch a film and come together. And we discuss, put them all together and discuss, what does it mean to understand history through films, and what kind of value the films have as primary sources, what kind of interpretations do they do with history. So there's so many fascinating aspects that we delve on. It's about Bollywood, which is the world's largest film industry based out of India, and you may have watched some of those films, but it's about cinema in general, that allows you to think about the cinema culture, popular culture, to think about people's involvement in films. And this course counts towards film and media studies minor. It counts, of course, towards history major and minor. It also counts as an elective for women's gender and sexuality studies minor, as well as for the Middle East and South Asia studies minor. So one of the things, what I'm really excited about, is the London Film Festival, which happens every fall in London. I think it's one of the best film festivals to go to. And I'm working on setting up some programming with the London Film Festival. So students who are in that class are able to experience what a film festival actually looks like. So we get to, visit and see and experience, learn from some of the filmmakers. So that's one part of it that will enrich our experience. Of course, being based in London allows us different other kinds of things. So we'll be able to, there are theaters where Bollywood films play, so you go and watch films together, uh, and similarly experience the culture. So there are places in London such as Southall, the deep South Asian concentration. So you go and walk around the neighborhood. It's called the Little India. So while we are understanding India, you also go and see that, experience the culture, food, everything else, the festivals. In the fall, Diwali, the Festival of Lights, is big. So we'll plan to go and visit that place and experience that festival there. So that's one big part of the Worrell House experience in fall 2021. The other element is the British Museum. Every time I'm in London, and I do a lot of research, I do research on India, and I'm visiting London. I visit almost every year, every other year for my research purposes. And whenever I get time, when I come out of my archives, come out of my research work, I have an hour or two to kill. I just walk into the British Museum because it's huge and it's fascinating. There's so many things to see. So that would be one place. And there are many other museums too. It's not just one museum where we can all go and experience both Asian culture, world history, as well from a history standpoint, where you go and see some of the original artifacts, but also, read. So we'll plan to visit the British Library, maybe do a short project there. So, you come with me, do a little research project, experience, how people write books and what do they do. Go to the National Archives, a very similar kind of experience, if you're working on anything with regard to world history or India. Victoria Albert Museum, which is one of the most fascinating museums I have been to, where you can see the artifacts from Mughal Empire, from other parts of the world in modern times, from the British Empire. There's a cinema museum, which will be very exciting to learn about cinema in general and its development. Imperial War Museum, Tower of London, where you have the crown of the Queen, where you have the Kohinoor diamond, which was the biggest diamond of its time, which was brought from India. So, those are quite a few things that we will experience. And these are just some highlights. There are, of course, the weekends that we could go and visit all these places, experience. We could go as a class. We could we'll plan to go to places outside of London. So Stonehenge, just look at and experience the British culture 5,000 years ago, right? So the Stonehenge as a UNESCO heritage monument. We'll do that trip. We'll go to, on the way, Bath, the city of Bath, where you can experience the Roman-built baths and see that. Two other things that I have been planning is to go to Oxford University and Cambridge University. So I have worked a lot in those universities, in their archives. So Bodleian Library, where I have been a few times, it's a fun place to work. So, just go and experience what some of the iconic libraries in the world look like, what kind of materials do they hold. So we'll do a tour, we'll spend some time. We'll probably attend some lectures going to the University of Cambridge, and ferry to Greenwich, which basically the prime meridian, the zero longitude, where you can go and see. These are some of the highlights I wanted to just put out there. There are a number of other things we could do. You'll get a one whole week break in the middle of the semester. So I haven't yet planned, but maybe explore something outside of the UK would be another possibility. Or even within UK, go to Scotland, go to Ireland, see more of the culture in the surrounding area. So these are some tentative plans. There could be more and more specific information as we go along. If you have any questions at any point of time, just let me know, email me, and I'll be happy to answer and discuss more and meet with you and talk more about it. I'm really excited about this upcoming fall 2021 semester in Worrell House, and look forward to seeing you there.
I have a chance to share some plans for the semester following Dr. Raman's semester, so spring 2022. Just a little bit of background. You don't need to read the whole slide, but that'll be available later. I've been a faculty member at Wake Forest for 23 years, and I've had the absolute pleasure and honor of being able to teach in the summer at the Worrell House on 2 occasions. And it's just been, like Sydney explained, I can't get enough of it. I love it. I love the city, and I just think it's such an incredible learning opportunity. And so to be able to be there for a whole semester is just a gift. So I'm super excited about that. My own son is a Wake Forest graduate, and he also studied abroad, not with me, and it, you know, it really changed his whole experience at Wake. And I've seen it from a faculty perspective and seen it from his student perspective, and I just can't say enough about it. So I'm glad you're all thinking about it, and hopefully it'll be in one of these semesters. But in any case, please make sure you pursue the experience. It's awesome. The courses that I'm going to be offering in the spring 2022 semester are courses that you might ordinarily, if you're in your first year at Wake right now, you might ordinarily be taking on campus in the spring of your sophomore year. That's the way the chemistry sequence works, is that you would be taking Chem 280 in the spring of your sophomore year. That's not to say you can't take it other semesters, but that's the normal sequencing. So the fantastic thing about being able to take Chem 280, which is the second semester of our general chemistry sequence, the fantastic thing about taking it in London is that almost all of the foundations of chemistry, in fact, originated from the UK. So if you're in general chemistry now, or if you've taken AP chemistry and you learned about Dalton and atomic theory and Rutherford and Priestley and all of these fathers of, and they were fathers, it was a man's profession then, that all took place in the UK, and it's a fantastic history, and we can just be there. We can go and see the original models that John Dalton created of atoms. So I can't say enough about the opportunity to learn those foundations of chemistry in the place where they happened. Chemistry 351 is a special topics course. You can take that course either to put towards a major or a minor in chemistry, or you can take it as an elective course. And it's just a fantastic way to use all of the resources, as Dr. Rahman was saying, all of the resources around the city and around the country to learn about how we got to this point in our knowledge of chemistry. And so on the next slide, there's a list of some planned or anticipated outings. If we can manage it and schedules work and everything works out, we'll have a weekend trip as a class. You'll be doing your own travel, I know, but as a class, if we can manage it, we'll go to Paris to Madame Curie's former laboratory, which has been decontaminated. I assured Dr. Dalton that we're not walking into a radioactive trap. And it's now a museum, and it's such an incredible testament to not only the work she did, but the work of women in chemistry, and opened important doors for others. So we'll hopefully be able to make that trip together. From London, we can do lots of really exciting day trips, going to Cambridge and Oxford, as Dr. Rahman said. We'll be going to the Cavendish labs, not the library, but you could go to the library while you're there, but we'll go to the Cavendish labs in Cambridge and the History of Science Museum and Museum of Natural History, which is where there was this great clash debating Darwin's theory. So there's just such a rich history there when it was such a new time to think about evolution. And then we'll go to Berkeley, or Barclay, as it's pronounced by folks who live there, which is indeed like UC Berkeley. It's the same family name that is the town in England. And that's where Edward Jenner discovered the smallpox vaccine. So there's this little hut where people would come from all over and get vaccinated against smallpox, which was the scourge of the time. And I think it's so relevant now, coming out of the pandemic. We will be out of the pandemic then, and it'll be nice to understand about vaccines and their development. Within London, there are all sorts of opportunities. We could be there for years and years and years, as Sydney has said, and not see and do everything. St. Mary's Hospital is a real highlight. You'll get to visit where Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. You'll be amazed at a tiny little lab that had no sink in it, and that's where he discovered penicillin, which of course saved innumerable lives. And all sorts of museums. One thing we will get to do, which is super exciting for me, is the Royal Society of Chemistry has their headquarters and their library in London, and they have evening lectures. And unlike in the US, where science sort of sits apart from the general public often, in London, the general public go just for like an evening out, like they might go to the theater, but they go to the Royal Society of Chemistry and hear a lecture and participate in a debate. So it's just an awesome experience to really see how the community is affected by science. So lots and lots, I could go on all day, but anyways, I'm glad you're here and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. I'll just quickly share the application requirements if you don't already know. So on the regular Wake Abroad website, which is linked through the FAIR website, if you haven't already found it, is where you'll find the application to apply. And there's just a questionnaire to fill out with your information so that the resident professors can get to know you a little bit. Some short answer questions. You'll also need to upload your passport. That's more for our office, just to make sure that you have a passport, or if you don't, so that we can help you through that process. And then your transcript as well for the resident professors to review. And then you will need to make a meeting with the resident professor as part of the application. So you can contact them to do that once you're ready. And these deadlines are kind of the standard deadlines across, all of our house programs, but we do extend them if the program does not fill, or, if we need to allow for more time. So if you can apply before October 15th or March 15th for both of these semesters, please do so, because applications are reviewed on a rolling basis. But of course, if you need a little extra time to decide, you can always start an application now and finish it when you're ready. And just so you're aware, once you are hopefully accepted, you will just have to submit a deposit, and that secures your spot on the study abroad program.